Welcome back to my channel for a Leica M EV1 tutorial. That's the Leica M EV1, the newest Leica M camera, which has, instead of range-finding mechanics and an optical viewfinder, an electronic viewfinder built into the camera body with 5.76 megapixel and OLED goodness. And in this video, I will show you my setup for this brand new camera. I actually have it for myself. I had a pre-production sample, which I enjoyed. That's why my videos went live right after the announcement. But I also bought it for myself because I wanted to shoot it. I actually like the concept of an EVF in an M camera. I have no problem with it, although I see a lot of controversial discussions. But in this video now, I really want to show you how I set up this camera, and in this way, hopefully provide valuable insights for people who just hop on the train, order that camera, or already have bought it and want to get some guidance how to operate it. Let's kick this off. If you have not yet subscribed to my channel, please do so. Subscribe, hit the notification bell, and support my work. Many thanks for that. All right, let's do this from scratch. And doing it from scratch means resetting the camera. Let's go into the menu here. Let's go to the very last page, and then we go to reset camera. And then I'm asked, do you want to reset the camera settings? Yes, because I will set it up again. Do you want to reset user profiles? Yes, let's get a fresh start. Do you want to export user profiles to card? If you do this with your own camera and you've set up user profiles, please store them and export them to the card. I say here no. And the Leica photo settings, I also don't need, reset them. And do you want to reset image numbering? No, because in this way I have some indication for the shutter count, and now we need to switch this off. All right, switch the camera on again. Gives us a fresh start. And we get a nice animation, like always from Leica. This is always beautiful to watch. And it indicates the main elements of the camera I have here in my hand. And then I go for English. I will not connect at this point in time to the Leica Photos app. And then we come into live view. And now let's start with the menu. So here we have the most important settings, and we can also tap on them and activate them here. White balance, for instance. I'm currently on auto white balance. We have here drive mode, single, continuous, interval shooting, exposure bracketing, all of that. It's always best to start in single because that is what you should try out first. We have here a lot of settings, which I probably need to cover under tips and tricks in a separate video. Here it's about the initial setup. So let's move on by pressing the menu button. And there is a favorite page pre-populated here. That used not to be the case on earlier models. And in that favorites page, you find the Leica Content Credentials, and they are actually switched on. And if we go into that, you can here manifest a copyright attached to your name, and the image is produced by yourself. So let's quickly do this. I go here to not capital letters, and then I say here math. Typically, I would say math photographer. See, this is very hard to do in front of the camera. Then I confirm, and you see it's taken over. We do the same here. We have here M-A-T-N-H. We confirm, and it's here. So we'll find this in the metadata. We have signing content on, and that means we actually are able to track everything that someone does with images which are our own property. And that all happens in line, in compliance with the Content Authenticity Initiative. Let's go back. That's all that's in the favorites at this point in time. We can populate this with more items if we want. We can go here to the main menu, or we can just push the menu button, which takes us to page number 1. Lens detection auto is always good, but you can of course switch it off. You can also here go to other options. For instance, if you want to mount a Leica R lens, I suggest to keep this at auto. Drive mode, I already said, we keep at single. We have here quick access as a separate menu item that used to be a little bit hidden in older models, but for a while now is a direct menu entry for the self timer. You can say off 2 seconds, 12 seconds, nothing in between. So you have quick access to that. Exposure metering, we have here spot, center weighted, highlight weighted, and multi-field. If you have a reasonably bright day, go to multi-field. If you want to steer via auto exposure lock your exposure, that it is balanced, go to spot. Center weighted is often a good compromise, and highlight weighted actually makes sure that the metering done by the camera recognizes and detects highlights in the image, and then will a little bit underexpose other areas in the image so that the highlights are not overblown and that no clipping effect takes place. We can have this as an initial setting on center weighted. Then we have here exposure compensation. I don't think we should use it at this point in time. Then we have ISO, and this is on auto ISO. You can of course go to all settings in manual ISO. The base ISO for the sensor in this camera is 100 if I'm not mistaken, but for an initial shooting you can leave this at auto ISO. Let's go to the next one, auto ISO settings. Maximum ISO 3200 doesn't look totally overwhelming, right? And that's also a number which you can now quickly change. I suggest to put this on a value of 12,500 because easily in post you can reduce any noise. The sensor here is excellent. It's not super vulnerable to noise, and you can dial this up to a much higher number. 1/4 times the focal length in terms of seconds shutter speed limit also is a bit conservative. I would here go to 1/2 times the focal length, then you are still on the safe side. If you have very calm hands, you can also go to 1 focal length. I suggest to keep this at 1 divided by 2 times f. ISO flash we don't have to touch at this point in time. Sorry, I was a little bit quick. So that is fine. We can now go back in the menu. White balance, keep on auto. File format, I suggest, and most people will appreciate that, go to DNG and JPEG. Sometimes I go to DNG only. So DNG is the digital negative, is the raw format. But it is good to have a full resolution JPEG because that's helpful on my MacBook, for instance, for a quick check if the image meets my standards. And if it does, I can work then with the raw file in my post-processing software, Lightroom Classic, what have you. And I suggest to have both on this camera. Then we have DNG resolution. Typically, you want to have the maximum what's possible. That's large, 60 megapixel. If you work in low light or tricky situations, I made a video some time back where I showed that MDNG is actually the best setting for the best image quality. And it's not 60 megapixel necessarily. And 36 megapixel is still a lot of resolution. You can print this in high dimensions, no problem. But I guess most people will go to the maximum resolution that the sensor is capable of. JPEG settings, I suggest the same. Go to LJPEG. Noise reduction, keep it at 0. That's balanced. You will not see anything you dial in here anyway on your raw images, the digital negatives. And as I said, use JPEGs only for a quick preview, but then work with the DNG, the raw file. Film style standard is fine, but you can here experiment. You also will get the Leica looks if you connect this with the Leica Photos app and upload them to the camera. An extended dynamic range is here off. I actually suggest on JPEGs to put this on medium because it will help you in your first look if you have enough details in shadows and highlights. Auto review 1 second, you know, this is your choice, right? You can switch this off. I typically have this on permanent because it goes away easily if I half press the shutter button and then I'm not in a rush. Let's say I have only 4 seconds to check this image. I don't like that, so I put it on permanent. Noise reduction on is fine, but it's a huge, great feature to switch it off. In particular for long exposures at night, if you shoot astro or stars, it's great being able to switch this off. For a first initial shooting, I would keep it on, but if you don't need it, or if you do time-lapse with long exposures, for instance, and you don't want to wait the double exposure time, switch it off. Easy like that. Shutter type, I would not put on hybrid, I would put it on mechanical. And if you ever need faster shutter speeds than what the mechanical shutter is offering to you, then you go to hybrid, but not before, because I saw instances where the camera for shutter speeds, which were fast, but not so fast that you need electronic shutter, we're deciding for electronic shutter. And the readout time of this sensor is not fast enough to avoid completely rolling shutter effect. So keep it on mechanical, and only if the sun is very bright on a day and you have the aperture widest open at f2.0, like on this beauty here, then go to hybrid or electronic shutter. Flash settings I'll skip, not important for an initial setup. Digital zoom off, but you can of course here dial it in. I don't think you should use it here in the menu because you can steer this via the new function lever, which is a new invention of Leica and is only so far on the Leica M EV1. We have perspective control on or off. That's a very useful feature, but you can activate it if you shoot architecture and want that help. It will give you orientation in Lightroom. Lightroom can read the metadata if it is switched on and will automatically correct for falling lines or distorted perspectives. It's a very useful feature. I've shown this many times on my channel. Customize control. We can now edit favorites. So what do I want to have there? Let's do this quickly. I want to have here, for instance, this is all off. I want to have the self timer. I want to have the drive mode. I don't need interval, exposure bracketing, exposure metering. I want to have in my favorites. I don't want to have all of that because I will set this for a longer time and not change it all the time. File format we don't need. Film style, that's all not so important. Noise reduction should be there, so I can quickly deactivate it if I don't want it. Shutter type should sit there, in my opinion. That's my personal setup guide here. And I don't need, I think, anything else. Maybe perspective control for quick access. Storage options, we customize once and for all in a moment. We don't need all of that. I think this is fine. Let's go further. Format storage, definitely not. You accidentally tap on it, your footage is gone. What else do we need here? I think that's good. I don't think there's anything else we need here under favorites. Now, if I go back into the menu, let me go to the control screen, the status screen here. If I now tap one more, you see my favorites have been taken over in this menu. Before we had only Leica Content Credentials, and then we had main menu, which is now on the second page of the favorites. But here I have this now populated easily with the customization I just did by the most important settings, which I can always access when I'm out. Let's go here back. Whenever I'm out in live view, I press menu button 2 times. I'm immediately within reach for my most important settings. So that's a good thing to have. Let's go back here where we dropped off. Customize control. Reset favorites. Here you can actually reset them all. I don't want to reset them at this point in time. I just set them up. Customize wheel. We have here one customizable wheel, and we can set this to no function, exposure compensation, or focus aid. I think actually focus aid is the best way to do this. Let me show you how this works. Let's go into live view. And if I now turn this, it magnifies, and it magnifies even more. See that beautiful picture of that watch in the background? That is now assigned to that wheel here. And I customized it. I turn it once, and then I have magnification. I turn it once more. I have even larger magnification. That's very good to have on this wheel here. Let's go back into the menu. Let's go back to customize control. Here we go. Let me get a comfortable hold of the camera. So we have that. Backside LED on. I recommend that you leave it on. Bottom LED for charging via USB-C and other functions, leave it on. Touch mode, I don't like. The default value here is on, but I don't really like that. I want to switch this off and get away with it. And that's already all on customized controls. Let's go to the next page, page number 4, capture assistance. You can set up info profiles here, and you have 1 on, you have 3 more, which you can activate. But the setup of info profiles goes beyond an initial setup tutorial, so I will leave this for another video here and move on. What else do we have here? Exposure preview permanent. I already set this up, and focus aid manual is automatic, much better, because that means it kicks in the moment in time I turn the focus ring. User profiles is a separate topic. I'm not sure I want to include this here, but very likely provide a separate shorter video where I show how this works, because this is a little bit too long as a tiny little line item in this overall video. Display settings, you can keep this all as it is. And I think the eye sensor sensitivity of high is good. As soon as I approach the EVF, I want the EVF to kick in and give me the live view. Leica Photos is also a separate video. I'm not setting this up here in this tutorial. Storage management. That is a good one. And I always go here to DNG and JPEG. So all footage I selected before that I want to have both to end up simultaneously on the internal SSD and on the SD card. So I activate this. So I'm on the safe side, you know. If I would say here, this is SD card only and it breaks down, I lose all my footage. If there is an error on the internal memory, the internal SSD, I lose my footage. It's always best to have a backup and have all the footage you create with that camera on both the internal SSD and the SD card. So let's keep it that way. Backup memory, that's a function where you can, if you store your storage on the internal memory, on the internal SSD only, move it, copy it to the SSD. You can say copy all or copy all your favorites, what have you. This is not relevant if I have this setting here because everything I shoot ends up in both storage options at the same time. And then you can, of course, format your storage. You can format the SD card, format the internal memory in a fast way. And if you would like to sell the camera, do it in a secure way. That's already all under storage management. Camera settings, let's quickly go there. Power saving mode, camera standby 2 minutes is way off too quick. I would put this at least on 10 minutes, or if you are not afraid, put it on off. That's what I always do. I put it on off. And display standby is a different story. I would say 5 minutes here is fine. That is my recommendation. USB charging on is fine. USB mode, you can have picture transfer protocol. That is if you want to transfer images from the internal memory or the SD card to your computer. I've done this already with this camera in the pre-production state, and you get both storage options visible on your MacBook, the internal SSD as well as the SD card, and then you can drag and drop images from the camera onto your MacBook. Apple MFI is relevant for the Leica Photos app on the iPhone, and tethering is, of course, if you connect the camera to photo software on your computer and shoot tethered instead of handhold like what I do here. Then Wi-Fi band 5 GHz is good. Date and time we already set up. Edit file name. This is now Leica M Electronic Viewfinder 0. I think that is a good name. I don't see any urgent need to change that. Image numbering I would not reset. For me, it's an indication for shutter count. Sensor cleaning is a way to get dust off your sensor. I'm not doing it now because it will interrupt this video, and dust protection I would actually set to on. And then we are already on the last page. We can reset the camera. Well, I'm not doing it. Let me go back because I just set it up. Leica Content Credentials we already dealt with under the favorites at the very beginning, and we already filled in our name here. So this is good, taken care of. Camera information gives you firmware version, not relevant at this point in time, but check regularly for new firmware in order to be at the newest state of the camera. And then language is English. And that's basically all. That's the way how I set up my camera. I did this fairly quickly. I skipped a couple of items like the Leica Photos app and the user profiles. I'll deliver them in 2 separate videos so that everyone who gets this camera newly, freshly, for the first time, maybe a Leica M camera, finally maybe because there is an EVF, it convinced you to try that system. Then you have a tutorial, a guide, what to do to effectively and efficiently operate this beautiful Leica M EV1. If you liked that video, don't forget to drop me your thumbs up. Stay tuned on my channel. There's always more to come. Thanks for watching. Stay safe and healthy. And of course, peace out.